There is a prayer, one prayer, 60 seconds long, that Florence Scovel Shinn called the most direct command available to a human being who wants to activate the law of unlimited supply. Not a long ritual, not a complicated spiritual practice requiring years of preparation, 1 minute. Spoken with genuine understanding. Spoken with the authority of one who knows that the words they are speaking are not being sent into empty air, but into the most responsive field in existence. The field of divine supply that surrounds every human life at every moment and has been waiting with infinite patience for exactly this kind of aligned command to arrive. But before I give you the prayer, I need you to understand something. Because a prayer spoken without understanding is like a key held by someone who does not know there is a door. The key has the power, the door is real, but without the knowledge of where to place the key and how to turn it, the door stays closed. And most people have been holding the key their entire lives without knowing what it opens. Florence Scovel Shinn spent her life teaching one central truth. She said the word of man is his wand filled with magic and power. Not his effort, not his strategy, not his discipline or his sacrifice, or the years he spends proving himself worthy of what he needs. His word, the spoken declaration, the prayer issued not from the place of begging, but from the place of knowing. The place that understands that the supply was prepared before the need was spoken, that the answer was formed before the question was asked, that the door was unlocked before the key arrived, and that the only thing required of the person standing at that door is to speak the right word in the right way with the right understanding of the law that governs it. Most people pray from the wrong position. They pray from below the supply, looking up at it. From the position of someone who needs something they do not have and is asking a distant God to consider delivering it if they have been good enough and patient enough and faithful enough to deserve it. And that position, however sincere, however earnest, however loaded with genuine faith in the goodness of God, carries a frequency that the law of supply cannot respond to in the way the person hopes, because the frequency of that position is the frequency of lack, of distance from the supply, of the supply being something other than what it already is, which is immediately available and already moving toward any life that aligns itself with the law that governs its flow. The prayer Florence taught is spoken from a different position entirely, not from below the supply looking up, from inside the law looking out, from the position of one who understands that they are not separate from the source of supply, but connected to it by divine right. That the supply does not need to be coaxed or convinced or earned. It needs only to be claimed, with authority, with the calm knowing of one who has read the spiritual law and understood it clearly enough to stand in it rather than beg from outside it. Joseph Murphy said there is a power within you that can lift you out of any financial condition and place you in the prosperity you desire. Not a power you must develop, not a power you must earn access to through years of spiritual discipline. A power within you right now, available to you right now, waiting to be activated by the right kind of spoken prayer. The kind that does not ask from weakness, but commands from strength. The kind that does not approach the supply with apology, but claims it with the authority of a child of God who knows their inheritance was prepared before they were born. Think about what your prayers about money have sounded like up to this point. Be honest with yourself in this moment, because the honesty is the beginning of the shift. Have they sounded like commands or like requests, like declarations or like pleas, like the voice of one who knows the law and is activating it, or like the voice of one who hopes the law might apply to them if they ask correctly enough? There is no judgment in that question. Most people were never taught to pray any other way. They were taught that humility before God means smallness in the asking. That faith means waiting patiently for what might arrive. That wanting financial abundance is spiritually suspect and should be approached carefully and with significant qualification. Florence disagreed with every one of those assumptions. She said God is the giver of every good and perfect gift, and it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Not to give you enough to get by, not to give you what you have sufficiently suffered to deserve. The kingdom, the full inheritance, the complete supply, and the Father's good pleasure means the giving is not reluctant, it is not rationed, it is not conditional on the quality of your spiritual performance. It is the natural, eager, generous outpouring of a source that has no experience of insufficiency and no reason to withhold from a child who has finally learned to ask correctly. Correctly means from the right position, with the right understanding, with the prayer spoken not as a petition, but as a claim, not as a request, but as a decree, not as the voice of lack reaching towards supply, but as the voice of alignment declaring what the law already confirms to be true. Malachi 3:10 says, "Prove me now, herewith saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven, and pour you out a blessing that there shall not be room enough to receive it." This is an invitation to test the law, to speak the prayer and watch what the law delivers, not to hope the law might work this time. To know that the law works every time for every person who approaches it from the correct position with the correct understanding and the correct spoken word. The windows of heaven are open right now, not conditionally, not pending your worthiness review. Open. The blessing is already pouring. The supply is already in motion, and the only question that has ever separated the person who receives it from the person who does not is whether their channel is open or closed, whether their spoken word is aligned with the frequency of supply or the frequency of lack, whether their prayer is a command issued from inside the law or a plea issued from outside it. This 1-minute prayer opens the channel. It aligns the frequency. It positions the person who speaks it inside the law rather than outside it. And from that position, the supply that was always pouring finds the open channel and flows into the financial life of the one who spoke the prayer with a speed and a generosity that consistently astonishes the person experiencing it for the first time. Let me tell you what happens in the subconscious mind when this prayer is spoken correctly. Because understanding the mechanism will deepen the authority with which you speak it, and deepen the authority is what determines how deeply the prayer lands. Joseph Murphy documented that the subconscious mind receives the spoken word as literal instruction when 2 conditions are present. The first is genuine emotional engagement, not performed emotion, not the effort of trying to feel something you do not feel, genuine movement in the body, even a small softening, even a brief opening, even 10 seconds of genuinely feeling the truth of what is being declared. The second condition is the absence of internal contradiction. The prayer must be spoken from a place that does not immediately qualify it with doubt, that does not add a silent but after every declaration, that does not perform faith on the surface while broadcasting lack at a deeper level. The 1-minute prayer you are about to receive is constructed to meet both conditions. It is short enough that the conscious mind cannot interrupt it with extended doubt. It is specific enough that the subconscious receives a clear instruction rather than a vague wish. And it is rooted in spiritual law, specifically enough that the person who understands that law speaks it from genuine authority rather than desperate hope. Here is the prayer. Speak it now. Speak it aloud, even if you are alone. The spoken word carries a frequency that the silent thought does not. It moves through your body when you speak it. It reaches your own ears, and through your ears returns to the subconscious as confirmation of the instruction. It enters the field as a signal that the silent thought cannot generate with the same power. Speak it aloud, slowly, with the voice of one who is not asking, who is claiming, "Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate and endless supply. All that is mine by divine right now comes to me in great avalanches of abundance. Every channel of supply is open. Every door of opportunity is unlocked. God is my instant and eternal and lavish supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly and easily under grace in perfect ways. I receive it. I accept it. I claim it now as mine by divine right. And I give thanks that the law is already delivering what I have just commanded." Say it again. This time, let each phrase land before the next one comes. Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate and endless supply. All that is mine by divine right now comes to me in great avalanches of abundance. Every channel of supply is open. Every door of opportunity is unlocked. God is my instant and eternal and lavish supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly and easily under grace in perfect ways. I receive it, I accept it, I claim it now as mine by divine right, and I give thanks that the law is already delivering what I have just commanded. Feel what changed between the first time and the second time. Feel where the words began to land with more weight, where a phrase caught somewhere in your chest and produced a physical response that the first reading did not. That response is the subconscious registering the instruction at genuine depth. That is the channel opening, not dramatically, not with a feeling of lightning or transformation, with the quiet, specific, physically felt sense of something releasing that was held, something opening that was closed, something aligning that was slightly off before. This is what Florence meant when she said, "The word of man is his wand filled with magic and power," not magic in the theatrical sense. Magic in the original sense, the power to produce a real change in real conditions through the mechanism of aligned spoken authority, engaging the law of divine supply. The wand is your voice, the magic is the law, and the power is what happens when the two meet in genuine alignment. Now, I want to address the person who is wondering how long this takes, who has spoken prayers before and watched the days pass without visible change and concluded that either the law does not work for them specifically, or that their faith is insufficient, or that they have not been good enough to deserve the response they were hoping for. I want to speak to that person directly because the answer to their question is not what they expect. The law responds immediately, always, without exception. The moment genuine alignment is achieved, the supply begins to move, not toward a result you can see the next morning necessarily, but toward the conditions that will produce the result, toward the conversation that needs to happen first, toward the idea that needs to form first, toward the connection that needs to be made first. The invisible movement begins immediately. The visible evidence follows at the pace that the specific and perfect unfolding of your specific supply requires. What most people interpret as the law not working is the law working in the invisible while they are looking only at the visible. The seed does not push through the soil the morning after it is planted, but the growth begins from the moment the seed is placed in receptive ground. The prayer you just spoke is the seed. The receptive ground is the subconscious mind that received it. The growth is already in progress. The evidence of the growth will surface at the exact moment it is ready to surface. And your work between now and that moment is not to wait anxiously for the evidence. It is to keep the channel open, to speak the prayer daily, to guard the frequency you are broadcasting so that the signal of supply is not undermined by the signal of doubt in the hours between declarations. Here is the practice, every single day, once each morning before the demands of the day enter. Speak this prayer one time through in its entirety, aloud, slowly, with the voice of authority, not apology, with the knowing of one who understands the law, not the hoping of one who wishes it might apply to them. 1 minute, that is all it requires. Florence called consistent daily practice the water that the seed cannot grow without. Not because God needs to be reminded, because your subconscious needs to be reinforced, because the old program of lack that has been running for years does not disappear after a single delivery of the new instruction. It fades with each repetition of the new signal until the new pathway is deeper than the old one, and the output of your financial life begins to reflect what is now running in the program rather than what used to run there. 1 minute daily. The law does the rest, not eventually, progressively. Each day the channel opens a little wider. Each day the frequency of supply becomes a little more dominant than the frequency of lack. Each day the subconscious builds a little more of the new financial reality and a little less of the old one. And at some point in that progression, different for every person but consistent in its arrival for everyone who stays with the practice, the first visible evidence appears. And when it does receive it fully, do not minimize it. Do not explain it away. Let it be what it is. the first fruit of a law that was working from the first day you spoke the prayer and is now producing visible output in the physical world. Florence Scovel Shinn said what God has done for others, He now does for you and more. Not what He did for the especially deserving, not what He reserved for the spiritually advanced, what He has done for others, for every person whose channel was open, for every person who spoke the right word from the right position with the right understanding. He now does for you the same supply, the same abundance, the same avalanches that arrived in other lives when other people finally learned to stand inside the law and claim what was already theirs. Speak it one final time, with everything you have received in this teaching behind it, with the understanding of the position you are speaking from, with the knowledge of the law you are activating, with the authority of one who is not asking whether the supply is available, who knows it is available, who is simply opening the channel and letting it flow. Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate and endless supply. All that is mine by divine right now comes to me in great avalanches of abundance. Every channel of supply is open. Every door of opportunity is unlocked. God is my instant and eternal and lavish supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly and easily under grace in perfect ways. I receive it. I accept it. I claim it now as mine by divine right. And I give thanks that the law is already delivering what I have just commanded. It is done. The channel is open. The supply is in motion. The law has received its command, and the law does not fail. Speak this prayer tomorrow morning, and the morning after, and every morning until the evidence in your visible world has caught up with the truth that your spoken word established in the invisible today. Watch what money does when the channel is genuinely open and the command is genuinely spoken, and the law is working the way it has always worked for everyone who has ever understood it well enough to stand inside it and speak.